Mr. President, thank you for sitting down with us.
Mr. Former President, Mr. Current Microblogger. He seems confused. Who are you again?
This experiment of Joe Biden as president, it's only been 4 months, and in a short 4 months, America's enduring.
It's not an experiment. He's actually the president. No, we're not trying it on like a hat. Or like, I don't know, an uncomfortably dark, orangish brown base that doesn't quite fit our normal skin tone, you know?
During numerous crises, both abroad and at home, it seems our...
Yeah, there weren't any riots last year during Trump's presidency. There weren't any issues with the border. Gosh, we didn't enter an actual economic downturn in February of last year. I mean, no, there haven't been. I mean, didn't George Floyd happen during the Carter administration?
It seems our country is deteriorating very fast, even faster.
Yeah, but only if you go by the stock market.
Than I would have thought your reaction.
Well, it's pretty obvious. You look at what's going to happen is even scarier. The border is a disaster. We had the strongest border we've ever had, and within a month it became the weakest, and now you have tens of thousands of people flowing into our countries, and many are criminals, frankly, released from jail.
These 9-year-old murderers are just, I mean, it's frightening. Did you see that 11-year-old kid crying in the desert? I think it was the mainstream media refusal to show his neck tattoos that I found the most upsetting.
In numerous countries, we have people coming in from the Middle East. We have people coming in from everywhere. You go to the airport, you have to show how you're doing. You come through the southern border and you just walk in. We're the strongest.
So the wall didn't work. So wheels and walls, that was all bullshit?
Southern border ever, and it's very sad to see. The wall was so important. You know, we built almost 500 miles of wall.
Of useless wall, apparently. Because if the border is a total crisis after you built this wall, which you said was almost finished. Remember, the wall's almost finished, guys. Remember? We didn't have 1,000 miles left to do it. They didn't cut us off a third of the way. Almost done. Just a couple more months of work. And yet, a couple months worth of work on the edges, and still the thing is a perforated mess.
Wall, and within a month it would have been finished, and they ended it.
Can you imagine? All the work up to that point is that last month, and then the whole thing.
They ended it.
Right.
Took 2.5 years to get the approvals to do it. I had to go to court. I had to do everything. We got the approvals.
Yeah, well, it was that whole Mexico's gonna pay for it part that didn't quite. Then it kind of threw a monkey wrench in the whole thing. How do you say monkey wrench in Spanish?
And so you have open spots, and it's ridiculous. I hear they're going to close them up, but now it's a big deal.
It's too late. I mean, obviously the children are in, and then of course they're all going to grow up and be, Democratic voters. That's the whole purpose. We're just importing children. Apparently, I'm confused about this, by the way, and maybe some cues in the crowd can tell us. So the children storming across the border in vast numbers. I mean, obviously, the unaccompanied minors are an issue that we're dealing with. But the whole families that are put in asylum programs, and unless they have sponsors, they're turned away. And the individual dudes, like military age men, any dude over the age of 18, and I guess if they're 75 and they made the walk, I think we should just let them join some sort of like senior Olympics team if they were able to make it across the desert at that age, because they're obviously superhuman and we're part of a super soldier serum experiment. But anybody in that window is getting turned away directly. So I'm confused. And the Qs can probably tell me this. Are we letting the Mexican children in so that they'll grow up and turn into Democratic voters because we need them later, or are we eating this batch? I'm very confused.
Deal with the contractors, because those deals were those transactions were made. It was all complete. But you look at so many other things.
So they've already been paid, and for work they didn't do. Part of the deal, baby.
It's very sad to see what's happening. Inflation is going to be a big problem. It's going to drive a lot of things up and down, whichever is worse, because...
What is inflation again? What is it? What's inflation again? What does inflation mean? Does that mean the prices go up or down? So basically, there you have it. This is the whole... No matter what happens during the Biden presidency, if prices go up, it'll be bad. If they go down, it must be bad. They're all bad. Everything is bad. If they lock up the border, it will be bad because you won't be able to get migrant workers. And if they open the border, at all, it's total open borders, and anybody can just storm on through. And up or down.
Bad things happen with inflation, but you see that happening all over. Lumber, the cost of gasoline. Right. You look at gasoline, what's happened. I was at $2.87.
Yeah, when no one was using it.
Was high. That's when I got involved.
Somebody ring a bell whenever he's right. Hold on 1 second. He's like, you said it right, Grandpa? Right. Hold on.
Was high. That's when I got involved.
Ding! Are they doing this interview in an elevator? First floor, ladies' lingerie.
Right.
And it was in the 3s and a little bit in the 4s, and then came in and I had it under $2. I had it for $1.87.
Can this guy keep saying right enough to Trump? I mean, is that his job as an interviewer? Listen how many times he said right.
$2.87 was high. That's when I got involved. Right. And it was in the 3s and a little bit in the 4s, and then came in and I had it under $2. I had it for $1.87 actually, and when I left, it was under $2 substantially, and now it's going to be hitting $4, and that's bigger than any tax increase you can think of, especially for middle-income people. So a lot of bad things are happening. I don't think we're respected in the world right now.
Okay, that's just changing directions.
There would never moves on Taiwan by China. Now you have bombers flying over Taiwan. Right. Russia would have never encircled Ukraine like they.
I beg your pardon? Russia would have never encircled Ukraine? Does this asshole think Russia has troops in Europe now?
They did. Kim Jong-un was somebody that I had a great relationship with. We weren't.
Yeah, so great that he has more nukes and he has intercontinental ballistic missiles now. Great relationship.
Going to have any problem with him, in my opinion, and now you look at what's going on there. A lot of bad things are happening.
I want to ask you about the Wuhan lab. New reporting this week from the Wall Street Journal.
That while you were president, apparently the Chinese weaponized a virus, sent it over here, attacked us effectively on purpose with a bioweapon, according to our sources, and you decided to let it in, ignore it for 6 months, and then give them all of our beef, corn, and soybeans. It's like if Chamberlain was a chef for Hitler. Is that what we're saying?
Journal about workers there being so sickened as far back as November of 2019 that they were hospitalized. The corporate media, now the shameful bias.
By the way, I was in China during 2019. We were hearing stories about this disease that was starting to break out. It was around that area. It was even in amongst the news in China, even when they were putting it down. We were hearing stories of it. I brought it back and talked about it on my radio show, which again points to the fact that if I knew about it, just as a dude doing a tourism show in China at the time, if I knew about it, there is no way that the intelligence services didn't know it. That means Trump could have known it. He just ignored it.
His corporate media is starting to come around to recognize that perhaps that is the origin, in fact, of the China virus. Even Dr. Fauci is changing his tune. Do you feel vindicated?
Well, I said it right at the beginning. That's where it came from. I think it was.
Well, we know it came from there. The question is, did they come from the lab, and did they do it on purpose? Is it synthetic or is it natural? Nobody's arguing about the geography, dumbass.
It's obvious to smart people that's where it came from. I have no doubt about it.
Even dumb people know it comes from there. Case in point.
No doubt about it. I was criticized by the press because China has a lot of people taken care of. They took care of Hunter. They took care of Joe. They took care of everybody, didn't they?
They took care of Eric and Don Jr. and you.
And people didn't want to say.
Sorry. We know about Hunter's business dealings in China, especially the money that came to the company before he actually joined it. But what about that hidden bank account that suddenly had $17 million in it and you took $15 million in cash out?
Say China. Usually they blame it on Russia. It's always Russia, Russia, Russia. But I said right at the beginning it came out of Wuhan. And that's where all the deaths were. Also, by the way, when we...
Yeah, dumbass, we know what the area. That's not what he's asking you. Grandpa, pay attention. He's asking you if it came out of the lab and it's not natural. That's the, I had no doubt. We knew it, that's where it came from. Everybody knew.
We first heard about this. There were body bags, dead people laying all over Wuhan province.
Just laying all over? Is that what that was happening? They were just body bags just laying all over the place. Is that how it worked out?
And that's where it happened to be located. So to me, it was very obvious. I said it very strongly, and I was criticized, and now people are agreeing with me, so that's okay.
When it comes to China,
that was an edit.
the more we learn about their malfeasance regarding the virus and what they knew very early on and lied to.
Again, the elevator's there. Why the hell? Honest to God, is this at the Newsmax studios in between the elevators? You know how sometimes in an elevator where they have like two banks of elevators and they have a couple of chairs and a little table and a couple of plants, and you're like, who the fuck sits there? Right? Oh my God, these elevators are taking forever. Let's lounge. That's what this is. There's literally just
lied to the world about. Is it important for the United States that we make them pay a real penalty for what they did?
Yeah, strafe bombing. That's what. Yeah, go for it.
Well, we have to be stronger than what we are right now.
What would you suggest?
Now, what's going on is just very unfortunate. I put massive taxes and tariffs on China. We took in tens of billions of dollars, and they're talking about taking them off.
No, they're not. And they devalued their currency to get around it. And you sold them the largest shipment of soybean, corn, and beef in our country's history with China. And they still never met their obligations for phase one of the China deal, which supposedly is the reason why he was tapping the brakes on calling China out. And he was saying they were very transparent and they're doing everything and she's just doing fantastic. The reason he did this was because he goes, the ink wasn't even dry and they hit us with this thing, right? That was the way. I mean, we'll see if he actually says that, because he said it all the time during the road. The ink wasn't even dry on the deal, and they hit us with this virus, and they tried to, I think it was on purpose, and they could have stopped it, and they chose not to stop it and destroy the world and all that shit. And then what did he do in July? Sell them all the beef you got. Yeah, I mean, we got food lines in America because of the pandemic. Everybody on those food lines could have been having a government-provided steak dinner every fucking night just by presidential dictate. There you go. We're not gonna sell this. We're not selling any food to the rest of the world right now because we're worried about food lines. So we would sell it to you, China, but fuck off. You poisoned everybody. Like that. I don't know why he thinks this is impressive.
You look at the military they're building, it's going to be, it's so big what they're doing. And
This is also what the Germans thought about the Northern Front right before D-Day with all the inflatable tanks. Can I show you guys one thing, just on a side note? You guys know I speak Chinese, like John Cena, only better. And I spent a good deal of time over there, especially in the lead up. Let me show you something, shall I? Let's see. See what shaking skyscraper. Yeah, here you go. This is well, here, I'll just show you the whole thing. This is what comes up on YouTube. Shenzhen has a skyscraper in it. It's 356 meters tall. They built it for the anniversary of the Communist Party. And they rushed it, to say the very least. And they changed the plans of the building while they were building it. And so it's had a couple of problems in the past, but mainly it's been okay. But in the last 2 weeks, it started to shake. And there's no earthquake. It's just... See, you can see the towers up there. They evacuated everybody. People just ran out of the goddamn building. in the last 4 days, all the vendors and businesses in there have been moving their shit out on big on carts just to get away from the building. And this is not like an old building from the 70s or something that's been sitting there. This is brand new, state-of-the-art Chinese construction that the CCP is putting together, and it's like the equivalent of one of the casinos in Vegas or one of the high-rises in downtown Los Angeles just shimmering. Look at all the people just storming out of the thing. And the first time it happened, they said, oh, it was a combination of wind and the subway, and there was one other factor. I forget what it was. Wind, and temperatures. So the temperatures got really cold. The wind was really high, and it went by underneath. The subway went under at the same time, and it made the whole thing shake. Well, unfortunately, over the last 5 days, it's done it 3 more times, and they're not running the trains underneath, and the wind has stopped. Everybody around it is worried because the thing is going to fall on it. This is how, unfortunately, for the Chinese people who have a lot of sympathy for, this is how everything is made over there, and especially in the last 20 years. It's bad. And the same thing is true of their military boats, their tanks, their planes, all that stuff. It's copied and rushed. And don't, their 1-to-1 military training is pretty spot on. They treat it like Olympics. But in the areas where I saw armed guards around, a lot of them looked like 15-year-olds, and they had no bullets in their guns. There's no way they were actually armed. So that was it. Anyways, I just want you to know, when he's like, oh my God, they're eating our lunch.
They're doing it with money they take out of the United States. And
they don't take it out of the United States. Walmart takes it out of the United States. That's right. Walmart. Half of our trade deficit with China can be explained just by goods sold in Walmart and on Walmart.com, which is bigger than Amazon.
was incredible with China. We really set them back. I don't want to set them back. I want to let everybody do well. Our farmers did well. The deal I made with China was incredible for our farmers and for
the closest thing to socialism our government's done in any ongoing way in its history is literally paying farmers to produce food for another country.
For manufacturers and everybody else. And you see that the farmers are doing better than they've ever done because of what's being bought from China. But when the China virus came or COVID came, whatever you want to call it, there are a lot of different names. I won't go into all of them. But when they came, Steve, it was a whole different ballgame. When that horrible virus flew over the oceans or came however it came in.
Probably on the back of a mermaid. I would say, it was an army of Chinese platypuses that brought it over. Humans brought it in travel.
Remember, I closed our country to China way.
No, he didn't. Again, this is horseshit.
Early, much earlier than Pelosi or anybody wanted it to happen, including Dr. Fauci.
Because that was your only plan. Their concern was all you were going to do is cut off commercial flights to China, not deal with business flights, which he still didn't do. So if boats and business flights from China, private commercial planes, or, where they're like people chartering flights for businessmen, they could come over. It didn't matter. It was just, it's obviously a poor Chinese person disease.
Fauci, I always got along with pretty well, but I usually did the opposite of what he wanted.
600,000 dead.
He said the vaccine would take 3 to 5 years and probably wouldn't even happen.
Right.
And I got it done in less than 9 months. I think that's one of the great achievements.
Well, he didn't say it would take 3 to 5 years. He didn't. He basically said like a year and a half to where you could get to a distribution point if you don't take these steps to get him to take those steps.
And I think another great achievement, I think the best bet ever made was I bought billions and billions of dollars of vaccine before we knew it worked, before we had it approved.
Yeah, the Congress asked you to do that.
Because otherwise we'd be waiting until October of this year. So
right, that's what they told you. That everyone was saying that. This is taxpayer money. It's not like you were a billionaire who, like, I tell you what, America, I'm gonna front you for this. You know, and it's a gamble, but if it pays on the other side, I want to get.
Well, you probably got vaccinated. Most people did.
He didn't say right.
A lot of people did. A lot of people are going to, and we have some out there that don't want to, and that's their freedom. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's their freedom. I would recommend that they do it, but that's their freedom. We're very proud.
Why would they want to exercise their freedom by not getting your magic vaccine?
Proud of what we've done. But if you look at the world, I think this could have been another Spanish flu from 1917 where...
He fixed it. Remember, guys, the last interview, the woman corrected him and didn't let him go. Remember that? Remember that? This is the first time he said it right out of the gate, and it was because one interviewer last week confronted him. Yeah, he kept saying 1918, and he finally said it. And it's 100% because that woman went in 1917, she said it twice, and he went, and it finally, that's fucking amazing. A year later.
Up to 100 million people died.
Yeah, dude, we didn't even have computers to keep track. This is pre-interstate highway. You can't compare how we in 2020 and 2021 handle an outbreak of a disease with the science that we have now, AI, computer modeling, the chemical and virology advances that have been made in the last 80 to 100 years. 100 years. Basically, you're just saying if this had happened and you'd been president in 1917, we'd just all be fucked.
This was only going to be getting worse, and the vaccine has...
Yes, it's true. If this disease hit and we were still technologically where we were in 1917, it would be a lot worse.
I see numbers today are that we're doing better than we have now in a year because of the vaccine, because it's stopping this plague from spreading and going.
Is that how it works? Please tell us. I mean, this is... Everybody sit back, get some popcorn. It's time for a TED Talk.
Further, other countries are behind us. We were way early. If you remember a very important time when this started, everybody was saying, look at India, how well India is doing. Well, they're not doing well. Look at other countries. They talked about France. They talked about Spain. They talked about different countries. Look how they're doing. Now even Taiwan is being hit very hard. But any country that was doing better than us, they'd use that as an example.
Yeah, because their lockdowns were working. And every time they eased them, they had an outbreak. Because vaccines weren't available yet, and they kept going, well, it's done. We're past the point. And then they'd open stuff up, and there would go again.
We did an incredible job with this with getting the ventilators and getting the out.
You mean like the ones the brand new ones that were dumped into a landfill in Florida where your future VP is governor?
And the goggles and the masks and all of the things you had to do.
You mean after you sent a big chunk of what we had to China first?
We did an incredible job, but they'd always say,
don't miss that sniffing at all. Yeah.
The fake news. Look at India. They used to use India as the biggest because it was a big country. And they were doing fine then, but boy, they've gotten hit harder than anybody ever thought possible. But they'll get better because of the vaccines. The vaccine is the biggest thing that's happened, and second to that would be one of the best bets ever made, and that was the bet of billions and billions, up to $12 billion worth of paraphernalia, but also, for
paraphernalia. Oh, in case when we got the vaccine, we needed to smoke it through a bong. Paraphernalia. It's great. The Johnson & Johnson comes with a roach clip. Paraphernalia. Paraphernalia?
The bottles, we got the injection apparatus.
Yeah,
but most
you mean syringes? The injection? The bottles? The bottles. And the injection apparatus.
Importantly, we got the vaccine, and we bought it early because it takes so long to manufacture. So instead of having one now, people would be you'd start the process on October 1st. So that was a great bet. That saved possibly, tens of millions of lives worldwide.
Mr. President, you mentioned gasoline, and the specific statistics are on Election Day, it was $2.20 a gallon national average, according to the Department of Energy. Right now, it's $3.11. That's a massive move, incredibly quickly since.
Oh, sorry. Hold on one second. I know that's important. I know it's very important. Let's see. How do we do this? Gas price index. 2016 to 21. Something like that. Let's see. Let's see. How much gas in 20? Here we go. 214. So the price of 2017 is that August. There we go. 93. Okay. Retail gas prices. Let's see. Okay. Here we go. Let's see. So here's the U.S. all grades, all formulations retail gas prices. Right before 2008, right at the top of the crash, it was up and up and up and up, and then pow, it dropped because it's a supply and demand kind of a thing. Then it jiggered its way up and kind of climbed around here, and then it got stuck up in this area for quite some time during this time because nobody was using it, and all these people who lost money here and lost money here were trying to make up for it by driving the price back up. And then we did this kind of moving around. 2016, right before Trump actually comes into office, it goes below $2 for a little bit, and then Trump gets in office, and it steadily starts to go back up. It gets shaky right about here, and then pow, there's COVID, falls right off a cliff, and then goes right back up here. And see that little curve right there? I don't know if you really look. Let's see if we can do this in here. Let me slide this over here. There you go. $2.94 a gallon right now. That's for April. And it was April of last year was $1.93. So it went up $1 after going down $1. See how it was there? There's $1, and then it goes down $1, and then it goes back up $1. Now, to get anywhere near the Bush price, which was, where is it? Here you go. $4.10 a gallon in 2008, right before the crash, where in just a few months, it went to $1.74. And then, obviously, here's the recovery happening, and then it bumbles back along, and then they basically hit a point where, gee whiz, if we keep selling at this price, people are going to start buying electric cars. And the electric car business started to climb right about here, and so they started depressing gas prices, keeping a little bit lower for a while, so that people go, well, I'll wait a couple years before I get it, because I got range anxiety and all that kind of stuff. At a certain point, there's an ROI on driving the gas prices up, or if you get too high, people are going to abandon it because they now have an option. There's an F-150 that runs on electricity, and you can charge it at night. So let's be abundantly clear. In 2019, May of 2019, $2.94, right? And then it dropped down to $1.93. Now it's at $2.94 again. And see that curve where it's leveling out a little bit because of what the consumer is willing to pay and unemployment and all that kind of stuff? Yeah. So just for the record, this is combined. Obviously, there's some that are higher, some are lower. Premium's going to cost whatever. This is the median for U.S. all grades, all formulations, retail gasoline prices, dollars per gallon across the country. Here's the breakdown. And if you look at, there you go, month to month, there's $2. This is April to April. Well, that doesn't let me. So this little section right here. So 2016 went up 30 cents in a year. Then it went up 50 cents, or sorry, it went up another 30 cents. So it's 30 cents, 30 cents, 30 cents. Then it stabilized in 2019. And then it took a big shit, and now it's at $2.98. Still not up to the peak of $4 that it was in the same, let's see, that was actually a different month. So but even for April to April, because you can see that there's actual trends on when stuff is expensive. Like once you get into spring break, for example, month of March, we'll often see higher prices stagger. Same thing with summer, Christmas, Thanksgiving, they'll jack the prices up, that kind of thing. So just for, we have a reference.
Since Election Day. I want to ask you about inflation, though, more broadly, because you did business in the 1970s, the last time the U.S. saw really...
Yeah, that's when you bought all your hair products. It's when you developed your sense of style as far as suits, especially the pants legs. And I think that's when your belt size finally reached equator.
Aggressive inflation. A lot of people, if they're young, have never operated in that kind of environment in America. What does this portend for Americans, this new Biden inflation spike?
Yeah, it may not be terrible yet, but it's going to be terrible.
Well, it's going to be ugly. When you look at the cost of a house, just the materials for a house, it's up 30 or 40% in the last few months, especially
from what? From last year,
especially lumber.
When all the buildings shut down.
Lumber, they say you can't even get it. Perhaps they're closing down all their forests for environmental reasons. I disagreed with that. I said, let's buy our lumber from ourselves.
Let's buy our lumber from ourselves.
So we go to Canada, and Canada's they are very good negotiators in Canada. I did the USMCA, which was one of the great achievements because NAFTA was so bad. It was so horrible. Worst trade deal ever.
Then why are we having trouble getting wood from Canada?
Made, although the deals they made with China.
My deals are so good that inflation's going to go through the roof, and they didn't survive 3 months of anher administration.
China were pretty bad too, I will tell you that.
Oh, your elevator's there, sir.
But the worst trade deal ever made. And I got it done. So we have a great trade deal now, but they close up forests. They don't want to take down any trees. So we end up buying them from other countries, and the lumber's gone through the roof. The lumber, I guess, as much as anything, but everything, steel.
Is it just me, or is he starting to sound like Pat Robertson? You know what I mean? It's the same kind of mouth-shaped kind of situation going on. Honest to God. I can't get it out of my head.
Look at what's going on with pricing, and obviously you're going to have...
Look what's going on with pricing. We've got a country that is going to hell in a handbasket, and we've got to look at these, the USMCA is great, but these people...
Inflation. Gasoline is going to stop at $6, $7.
A what? An ounce?
I think, based on what I'm seeing, we were...
Okay, let's put a pin in that for later. $6, $7 a gallon gasoline. Get ready for that, okay? Let's just...
Energy independent when I left, and right now I would have to say we are no longer energy independent.
Based on what? We're not importing gas and oil.
Putting windmills all over the place, which cost a fortune, which, by the way, if you're a believer in the carbon footprint and all of the other things, when they make these windmills, which are all made in China and Germany, by the way, they're all made in China, Germany. We don't do them here. They put them together.
Yeah, why not? Because you shut down the program that would have helped people retool factories to make them here?
We put them together here. We don't make them here. What goes into the air?
Lumber is high because of the rebuilding needed to be done in Texas after last winter. That's a good question. Why don't we, while I'm looking up and obviously taking a giant shit all over his ridiculousness about, about gas. Let's see, what's behind rising lumber costs? Is it general? Yeah. And the street ought to say this. Okay, here we go. What's going on with this? What the heck is what's going on with this? What's behind the skyrocket? Quit it. What's behind skyrocketing lumber prices? Pandemic shutdowns meant people had nowhere to go, so they bought bigger homes or tackled home renovation projects. The demand for lumber showed up in increased building costs. The lumber market in 2021 continues to reach new heights that were unthinkable just a few years ago. Historically, lumber traded in the 200 to 400 per thousand board feet. However, since 2018, that's interesting. I would have thought it would have started as soon as Joe Biden was sworn in. Weird. Supply and demand factors have caused unprecedented volatility and soaring prices. Limited supply, exceptional demand. It's almost like the market. The current lumber market is a confluence of limited supply, both long-term and short-term, and exceptional demand. There are three main sourcing points for spruce, pine, and fir: Western Canada, the Pacific Northwest, and Eastern Canada. While production has been relatively consistent in the latter two, Western Canada has faced events in recent years that have led to diminished production. See, I thought we were getting it from Canada because we closed our forests, but the Pacific Northwest apparently is one of our primary places. Again, that's not, the production has been relatively consistent in the latter two. That would be in the Pacific Northwest, Portland area, and Eastern Canada, also Portland. Well, let's see. West Canada has faced events in recent years that led to diminished production. According to Michael Almond, general manager of Canfor, long-term availability of raw timber has been decreasing in recent years. In recent years, before 2015, forests were susceptible to the mountain pine beetle. That's what it is. It's the socialist commie mountain pine beetle. Once the Antifa pine beetle. Once the mountain pine beetle epidemic has been placed under control in British Columbia, a sustainability plan was put in place to regrow impacted forest land. This has led to lower annual harvests over the past couple of years because they lost all this crop and they had to wait, and it takes time because it's not corn stalks, it's fucking trees. This has led to lower annual harvests over the past couple of years, a plan that will continue for another decade, coupled with less timber availability. 2019 saw lumber prices so low that it cost sawmills more to produce and export boards than they could sell them for, which led to the closure of several sawmills. So we lost them during the pandemic. There's not enough people to process the fucking plants, and they went under. Mr. Almond, which I just love. Does he know Mr. Peanut? Do they share the same hat? Does he have a monocle? These are all questions. Estimated that approximately 3 billion board feet were taken out of production between 2019 and 2020. When the demand started to ramp up in mid-2020, the sawmills were already producing at capacity and are unable to increase the amount of lumber coming to market. Demand for lumber skyrocketing in the summer of 2020. 2020 was Biden, he was basically president then, right? Bolstered mostly because Trump was just doing rallies and running the country, and everybody else was going, can we please just do what Biden's asking plan-wise? Right, remember that? He's basically president. Bolstered mostly by demand for housing and DIY housing projects, which often have to be done twice, as we well know. The shutdowns that occurred as a result of the novel coronavirus meant people had nowhere to go and fewer places to spend their money, so they started looking for bigger homes and began to tackle home renovation projects. Existing home inventory levels are low, and housing starts to continue to rise, signaling a steady demand for real estate. These are all new houses. Everybody bought all the bigger houses, and then people wanted big houses, so they've sold more. My girlfriend and I moved during the pandemic. It was probably, you're right, V. Gabriel, it was probably Jewish space beetles. Had to be. I'm sure, guys, I'm sure he will talk about the mountain pine beetle infestation in Western Canada. And, how can he not cover it?
Here when they make them is more than anything that can ever be saved while we're here, if you're a believer in that. Okay, some people are and some people aren't, but we have windmills all over the place. They ruin
the cause cancer and kill birds.
Environment. They kill the birds, and they cost a fortune. We have natural gas, costs us nothing. Actually nothing. They burn it off. When you're looking at all of those flames on top of the wells, that's natural gas that they burn off. They throw away.
Yeah, the fire isn't natural though. it would not behoove us to make a bunch of mini volcanoes all over the fucking earth all the time in terms of breathable air.
And we have it for nothing. Other countries don't have that.
For nothing, he says. Yeah, they do. Oh, what?
We have it for nothing. The richest in the world. And we want to give that away.
We do not have the most natural gas in the world. That's just ridiculous.
For windmills, you look at some of these beautiful farms where they have windmills all over the place, and you look at these incredible landscapes, and now they're putting them in parts of Massachusetts where a lot of people aren't so happy about it, and has a lot of negative impacts. I'm not a big fan of wind. It's very, very
You think?
expensive. You see what happened in Texas where they actually froze up on them. Right. Got a little cold and they froze. Now, we have...
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Sweden, anyone? Northern Europe? Gets way fucking colder than Texas there. They have windmills going all the time.
We have tremendous resources, and solar is going to get better, but it's very expensive right now.
No, it isn't.
Wind has a place, but it's got a much smaller place. What they're doing, you put them in industrial areas maybe, but to put them all over these incredible landscapes of our country, they're destroying our country.
Sure. I think that...
Sure. Yeah. That sounds right. That sounds about right. Sure. Yeah, sure.
Texas situation was a wake-up call for a lot of people if it could happen in energy-rich Texas, right?
Governmental mismanagement had nothing to do with, how you do it. It's like the Donner Party, or what was that group of people who went across the Antarctica and they lost their minds and they carried a desk for like 100 miles or some shit? That's the Republican governance principle. And, we're going to have to sign all these bills, so we'll walk a desk with us. What about the food? It's too heavy. Leave it.
Right.
Well, especially in Texas, because they have so much and it's for nothing. I mean, they literally are burning it off. It costs nothing. Somebody was giving...
What is he talking about? They have so much oil in Texas, they're just burning it off? Guys, I don't even know what to do with this, though. We got so much oil, I don't even know what to do with it. I think we just... What do you think we should do? I don't know. Set fire to it?
Giving me an analogy that natural gas is 1 cent per however they measure it. Wind is 50 cents and 55 cents. Solar is 56 cents. So here we have it for 1 cent, but it's probably almost nothing. Delivery is probably the biggest thing. We have it. It's there. It's a natural byproduct. We have it. Wind is so much more expensive.
Sure.
And remember...
Yeah, but it in no way poisons the water. He's counting literally just the extraction costs in his own mind versus the profit margin is enormous. If it's 1 cent per kilowatt hour, then why is anyone paying any electrical bills in the United States at all?
Remember this, when those windmills, after 10 years, they have to be replaced, and they start...
Yeah, and oil wells, once they're done, you just leave them. You just blow them up. What do you do? Like it's a rack?
To rust and rot. And you go out to Palm Springs, California, and you take a look at those wind farms out there. They look like junkyards. Right. It's really...
Right, yeah, it's totally true. Hold on, let's see. Is that true? I don't spend any time in, let's see. Let's see, what do we go? Palm Springs wind farms. There's got to be pictures of these kind of things. Let's see, images. Let's see. Yeah, it looks god awful. Trump says Palm Spring wind turbines. This was look like what? Blast wind turbines in Palm Springs at campaign event. Oh, they look like hell. He's been saying, okay, so this isn't new. This is in February of 2020. They look quite gay, quite frankly, which is great for Palm Springs, I think. Is the rainbow always there? I mean, that's adorable.
Really a terrible thing. And
oh, it's awful. I mean, I was going to build a golf course out there, but the wind turbines
Somebody led this country. I had it slowed down, but now they're really gearing up to do a lot of wind, and that's not a good thing.
Now, staying on this broad topic of the...
Can you imagine, honest to God, can you imagine being that's one of your, like, I got one on the board. I was the guy who stood up against windmills.
Economy. I want to ask you about big business and specifically big tech.
Yeah, ask him about how corporations shouldn't have the right of free speech.
Because a lot of these firms, I would say most of these firms, they are globalists and they don't really view themselves as American companies anymore. They abuse American workers. They attack our values. Was it a miss when we had both houses of Congress and you were in the White House? Was it a miss to not more aggressively confront big tech?
Well,
Yeah, get Section 230. Please say Section 230.
Section 230 could.
Oh, Section 230. Come on, everybody. Yeah, Section 230. You know that thing that if you get rid of it, it would just open up the internet for child porn, snuff films, violence, and like any kind of possible graphic material. And since there's no protection for it, it would just kind of be a Wild West until everybody sued those companies, and then there'd be no social media at all.
It could have been done. Something could have been done, but something is happening now that's great. Florida, Ron. Texas.
Florida, Ron. Florida, Ron. Really? Florida, Ron.
Something is happening now that's great. Florida, Ron. Texas, what they...
Greg. Is he just... Is that the... Like he's now inverting everybody's name? Like he's reading roll call at Republican elementary school? Florida, Ron, here. Texas, Greg, here. South Dakota, whatever. South Dakota, Kristi, Krispy Kreme, what's your name?
What they're doing is incredible. They're putting very, very powerful restrictions on big tech.
Yeah. And they will have absolutely no impact.
Now, when you add Florida and you add what Greg Abbott's doing in Texas and the others and a lot of people together, and you look at other states, big states and small states, doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. Up, down, small, big, doesn't matter.
You add them all up, they're not going to be able to function unless they become reasonable. So they're basically doing what the federal government...
Or they'll just have blackouts in those states, and everybody will. There'll be Florida Facebook. It'd be like Korea, or like North Korea or Russia.
Government will never do. They will never do it. They're taken care of very nicely. The other side, the Democrats, some of the people, Marsha Blackburn and Josh Hawley and others, they're really fighting hard, but they're...
Yeah, not for their states, by the way. Don't be confused. Marsha Blackburn's. Like Tennessee is going to hell in a handbasket, and Missouri, you know, for all the clamoring about Chicago's the shootings in Chicago that they like to clamor about, Missouri is fucked. The Kansas City side and St. Louis are like borderline. Here, you want to see? Well, they're 40%, and murders are up 40%, and that's if you're only tracking the assaults and robberies and the like are all up. Remember that's what they're supposed to. It's these big blue states. They're
fighting a battle against
what?
A group of people that just aren't going to do it. That's the Democrats. So what's happening is the big states are coming out. Florida, Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott in particular, those two
Took them that long to remember their last names.
Governors have done an incredible job. I hear in South Dakota they're doing it.
What'd I say? Chris, you know. Yeah.
Here in maybe 8 or 9 different states they're doing it. That'll do it, because I don't know how you can, you know, you're not going to lose Florida. They can't lose Florida, Texas, and some of these big states.
Yes, they can. Let's see if we can acquiesce to what Florida, South Dakota, and Texas want, and completely gut our ability to function as a social media network. Lose all of Europe, lose all of Asia with the exception of China, lose all of Canada and the rest of the United States and all the revenue that comes from that to kiss Florida's ass. Or we can just go, not available in Florida or Texas, not available in South Dakota. Whenever we have an ad for Snapchat come up, it's going to go, Features not available in South Dakota, Florida. Yeah, like that's get used to that.
They're going to have to make changes. So I think they can
They're not.
do what the federal government hasn't done, and it gives people like me and others that have been very illegally treated.
Illegally treated. No, legally treated. Private companies can have terms of service. If you violate them, they can tell you to go pound sand.
Gives us the right to bring major lawsuits. When Facebook went to their so-called Supreme Court, their Supreme Court didn't want anything to do with banning me.
Right.
They went back. They said, what are you doing? What are you doing this to us for? You make the decision, which was pretty amazing when you think of it. Considering
Is that how it went down? Do we have transcripts?
everybody was handpicked,
I'm guessing no.
right? So it's very interesting what's happening. So I greatly respect what some of the governors are doing in some of the states. I think they can solve the problem maybe better than the federal government.
Okay, but regarding the federal response, if the Republicans do retake the Congress, as you're very much working toward in 2020.
No, he isn't. He's not working towards that. He's absolutely kneecapping Republicans who are running next time.
If you decide to run again and you win in 2024 in a potential.
Yeah. If also you jump out that window and a parachute magically appears out of your ass, what song will you sing on the way down?
A hypothetical second Trump term, what can be done to counter the power of these oligarchs?
Well, I think
These oligarchs.
what can be done, and very strongly, and when you say oligarchs, it's an interesting term, but I just say big tech, because what they do is illegal.
I don't know what oligarch means.
They also silenced what should have been.
Wait, whoa, Newsmax. What was that big fade?
I just say big tech, because what they do is illegal.
But they also silenced.
What was that edit about? Is this another Newsmax exclusive where they exclude half of Trump's answers because they were nonsensical jackassery?
What should have been the biggest blockbuster story of the entire campaign. You know that. I certainly experienced this from the campaign side. The fact that the Hunter Biden laptop from hell story was...
Story. There is no Hunter Biden laptop. I will stand by that. I call bullshit on all of it. Not even the narrative of what's on it. The fact that it exists at all. I call bullshit across the board. Prove me wrong. There is none. Did you ever seen a picture of it? Have these guys ever held it up? Did Rudy ever bring it? Go, this is it. This is the game. Like, we found it. Da-da-da. Really? Can we see the serial number? Oh, no. Looks brand new. Oh, whatever.
Was completely censored and suppressed by big tech. In my view...
Because they didn't do more during 2016, and they allowed this lie about Hillary Clinton's server to bounce around, and it negatively affected the elections. Now, newspapers usually have a blackout on those kind of stories, but tech hadn't. The social media networks hadn't. So they just basically followed the same line around the election timing.
That justifies labeling these operators as oligarchs. Is that fair?
No. No, it doesn't. You know why? Hold on one second. Oh God, I'm having to. I mean, I should have expected. Oligarch, a ruler in an oligarchy. Well, sure, why not? 2, especially in Russia, a very rich business leader with a great deal of political influence. So does that make Trump an oligarch then? I mean, by this definition, Trump is an oligarch. Maybe that's why he doesn't like using it. He doesn't like using the phrase. Because he technically is one. I mean, I know he's not really rich, but, you know. He's richer, like, literally anyone watching this, including the trolls, has more money than he does because they have less debt.
Well, a lot of things are fair. Look, that was when we first had silencio. That's when we first had silence with Hunter Biden.
Silencio? Por favor? Silencio? What?
Had silencio. That's when we first had silence with Hunter Biden. because it was very bad for the Democrats. That was a very bad issue, and we'd bring it up. And I have to tell you, the New York Post was incredible. What they've done is incredible. And the
You mean running one article and then going, yeah, there really wasn't much else there. Plus, we only got copies of shit that Rudy gave us, and we've never actually seen the real
abuse
thing.
they took, it was, I think it's a great newspaper, actually, and a lot of people are relying on it more and more. The New York Post has...
Let's see, the New York Post. I mean, there's just no end of stuff to look up today. Let's see, New York Post Trump cover. Images. The Post says, Mr. President, stop the insanity. You lost the election, and here's how to save your legacy. Best sex he's ever had. There you go. Donald breaks a date. Dead. Oh, that's the Daily News. Donald, I'll make the White House mine. Well, not so much. I mean, you fucked up the garden, I suppose. Fake New York Post, you're fired. All right. I mean, this is, I think, the last big one when it came to Trump was this one. Post says, Mr. President, stop the insanity. You lost the election. Now here's how to save your legacy. All right. Well, that should, sure. Very respected. Thank you, Robert. Welcome to YouTube. Is he really Teflon Don?
Has done an incredible job in that regard, but they took tremendous abuse. But that's when you first saw silence. They silenced a newspaper. It's the oldest.
They silencioed them.
Newspaper in our country, I believe, and it's a big one.
Right.
But they silenced a newspaper in our country.
Right. Dude's like a frog. Right. Ding.
Because they were talking about Hunter Biden. And
What was that edit? Again. The fuck are you cutting out? Are they editing Is this when he goes off into a rant about Dominion and they have to cut it out so they don't get sued?
Senate we held. If I weren't involved in the Senate races, nobody ever says this, I believe it would be 60-40 right now with the Democrats leading by 10 instead of 50-50.
No.
And Mitch McConnell lost 2 seats that he should have had. He kept talking about, we're going to give you $600, they're going to give you $2,000. Who can win a race like that?
Right.
He said, you won't get a penny more to the public. You won't get a penny more. They're voting. And they're saying $2,000, and he's saying $600. He lost those 2 Senate seats, so we have 50-50.
Jesus Christ. Did he just go on and on and on, and they literally had to just, and it's basically the same shit. Just cut that section out. Just do a big... Just fade to white. Well, we didn't take any shots of me going, right? They could have covered the edit like a professional broadcasting company.
I think you would be 60-40 if I weren't endorsing. If you look at Alaska, you look at Iowa, you looked at North Carolina, you look at Michigan.
Yeah!
Even Lindsey Graham said I helped him so much, and he's done a terrific job. I helped him a lot.
He also said you lost the election and get over it.
And I got Mitch McConnell elected, if you can believe it. He was
I don't believe it.
losing, and he came to me. He wanted help, and I gave him help. And he went up 20 points after I gave him help, and he won his election. But if I didn't get him help, he would have lost absolutely in Kentucky, where I'm very popular. I like them. I like them too, by the way.
You couldn't give a rat's ass about Eastern Kentucky, and it's the only part of the state that needs help.
You've been very tough on Mitch McConnell, I think deservedly so. But wouldn't the same criticisms also apply to Kevin McCarthy?
Different. Kevin
kisses my ass. Kevin regularly comes down and says the sun shines out of my ass and that I'm great and, and he's younger. So I feel like, if we leg wrestled, I'm not sure I could take him.
Has had some bad moments, but he's always come back and done what's right for the country.
And that's, of course, kissing his ass.
So it's different. It really is different. He had a couple of bad moments, but...
You mean the part where he yelled at you on to allow the National Guard to go in on January 6th and you wouldn't?
It's a very interesting question. Different in that sense, yeah. Much different.
Was that, you guys, I feel like I learned a lot. Sure.
And you know what he's done? He's done a good job. Impeachment hoax #1. We didn't have one negative vote. And for the second, we had not very many. And those people are all being primaried. Right. I think every one of them. Liz Cheney, she's a disaster. I mean, Liz Cheney is being primaried in Wyoming. And Wyoming was my #1 state. I think I won it by 57 points.
Yeah, it's great in those states with what? 800,000 people?
No, 47 points, I guess. But I won it by #1. I think I won it by even more than Alabama and West Virginia, all great states. But I won it by 47 points.
That's weird. You won the whole state, and then you lost the states with lots of people in them. Weird.
You
know, I don't know how you didn't stay president. I mean, you won a certain number of states, right?
Earlier, you mentioned the Biden border crisis. There's a new report.
No, you mentioned it.
Reporting by some journalists in Tennessee that in the middle of the night, plane loads were landing in Chattanooga, Tennessee, full of migrant children. Nobody locally was informed about this. Every town is effectively becoming a border town now because of the Biden border crisis. What is the...
Wait. Sorry, what's the alternative with these unaccompanied minors? Why do the people of Chattanooga, Tennessee, what part of this is supposed to be like the Christian pro-life response? Honestly.
The left, Joe Biden, his allies, what are they really after?
Yeah, what do they want to do? That's a good question. Yeah, bring it to them. Tell us, man. What is it?
This open borders lunacy.
I mean, I know there is no open borders, and it's lunacy to suggest it, but yeah.
They're going to destroy this country and forget about the children.
Yeah, I mean, I think, has anybody ever said it better? Forget about the children.
Open borders lunacy.
They're going to destroy this country and forget about the children. They have people coming in from prisons.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, forget children. Children. I mean, obviously, they should be dumped in Juarez in the middle of the night. I mean...
They have rapists, they have murderers, they have drug dealers, they have human traffickers, and they traffic in women mostly, which nobody likes to say.
Why does nobody like to say that? What do you think? What do you think that... Do you think there's a big appetite for trafficked dudes? What the fuck? Who has a hard time saying that women are the biggest victims of human trafficking? You have to understand. I'm obviously not my normal spry self today, but even I in this can recognize that this is... I will not take this seriously from this man. Seriously. I'm not going to do it. I will not act like a real human being is saying real things right here. This is just goofy bullshit.
They traffic in women. They have people that...
Thanks for saying it, because so many people won't say it, except everybody.
Worst people anywhere in this hemisphere in the world coming into this country.
Even worse than the Edmonton Oilers
unchecked.
The hockey team? Those guys are rough.
Being released in our country. And yeah.
Being released in our country. What?
They are. They're releasing people in Tennessee. That never happened with me.
Those are people. He just said it was unaccompanied migrant children. No, it didn't happen with you. You dumped 8,800 migrant children unaccompanied in Mexico. No guardians, no NGO support. Just dumped them. Just buses. Get out.
Me.
Right.
That's why Tennessee likes me. But they're releasing them in areas that it just, I mean, it's...
Nobody's even seen anything like this before. And
horrible what's happening. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. Again.
Hi. You going to work out? Love you. Thanks. Aw. Thanks.
We had the strongest border in history. We never had a border.
But as soon as he left office, the wall took a shit.
Border like this with me. And a big factor was that I built so much of the wall. What a difference.
Yeah, it made a huge difference. Apparently, none of it works.
It makes it like day and night. Also, I got Mexico to go, 28,000 soldiers, free of charge.
Free of charge on the northern border instead of the southern border where they could have stopped the Guatemalans and people from coming in, and we would have only had to deal with migrants from Mexico, which we have a relationship with. They just stop them once they made it all the way in that country, and then Mexico doesn't want to bring them all the way back down there. They just want to stop them at their border, so they ended up, I don't know where the fuck these 28,000 soldiers were standing.
Because they didn't want to be tariffed, and because they also happen to have a very good president. I think a very smart president.
Yeah, he's very smart. Apparently, he's so smart that he lets all the rapists, murderers, drug dealers, and terrorists out of their jails and sends them into America. But he only did that then because he respected you.
A very good president. But we had the best border we've ever had. And overnight,
because of COVID.
Like, stay in Mexico. I want to stay in Mexico. Now they stay in the United States and they disappear into our country. We don't even know who these people are. They walk up, they can be murderers, they can be the worst, and they come into our country totally unchecked.
Right.
It's
totally unchecked. How is this? I'm drinking tea from Coffee Bean. I'm very frequently a consumer of the Orchard Peach iced tea, just plain green tea. It's mildly fruity, which can break up some of the bitterness of the green tea. And I drink. It only looks that yellow. Yes, I'm drinking my own sample.
It's very, very sad what's happening.
One last question, please, Mr. President, related to that.
Yeah, one last question, and we'll be sure to edit the shit out of it.
Joe Biden and his allies in the media.
He means me.
Teachers unions. They seem to be.
I'm not in the teachers union, but I'm a huge Joe Biden ally. I would consider myself an ally of Joe Biden. I say that, A, because it's true. On an emotional level, I have no connection to the administration. Although, anytime you need, guys, just give me a yodel. I'm sure you've got my number. Check with somebody at the FBI. I've got family, in the system. They can reach me. You guys have permission to give them my number. But A, that is true, and B, it pisses off all the trolls and the people. I know it. They're in league together.
Seem to be changing the very
Nothing's wrong with teachers. I'm just not one. My family is, though. My aunt has a math wing of the college she worked for named after her. She perished when I was 16. My uncle and my aunt, my other aunt and uncle on my dad's side, taught English and French in Nashville, Tennessee. And then my dad is the black sheep of his family because he chose to be an architect instead of a teacher. Grandfather was president of Murray State University. My grandmother was the head librarian there.
Definition of what it means to be an American citizen. What do you believe we should be teaching our children it means to be an American citizen?
They hate our country and we love our country.
That's great. Okay, this is what it means to be an American citizen. They hate our country and we love our country. Got it? Okay, class dismissed.
We have to love this country, and if somebody doesn't like our country, they shouldn't be here.
How are they going to get to like it? What if they liked it when they got here and then you were president and they were like, this place sucks?
But you look at the way they're treating Israel now compared to what it was 15 years ago. 15 years
What does it have to do with being a U.S. citizen?
Ago, Israel was, untouchable.
I do indeed, delusional mama. I do indeed.
Nobody's done as much for Israel, frankly, as I have. If you take a
ding, the elevator full of Netanyahu staffers showed up. So what it means to be a U.S. citizen is your abject support of Israel, no matter what they do. And if you disagree with movements by the Israeli government, you're less of an American? What the fuck is this?
Take a look between the embassy in Jerusalem and the capital of Israel and all of the different things that I've done, and the Iran deal, which was such a disaster. And Golan Heights was a big deal. Everyone, for 52 years, they were trying to get Golan Heights. I got it done. But they've been a great ally. And really, when you look at the way they're being treated right now, it's not even believable by Democrats.
What does it mean to be what the fuck are you talking about? What does that have to do with being a U.S. citizen?
It's not believable. We have
It's not believable. It's unbelievable. And by unbelievable, I mean you can't believe it.
to love our country, and you would almost think that the people that are allowing our country to be destroyed do not love our country.
Holy shit. That was a next level bag of garbage. Like, what? I mean, that whole answer just fell off a fucking cliff.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for telling us. So that's what it means to be, in case you were wondering, what it means to be a true American citizen is that you have to be from here and love our country and have support for Israel, the Israeli government, to do whatever they want, even if it's bad for the Israeli people, I think. I think it's just absolute undying blind support. And if you don't, then you're not really an American. Okay, check. Okay. And it's not believable if you aren't. What?
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for...
Rob, that was a waste of time. You really did. By the way, how are those alpha male classes going? Not well, I see. It's rough.